Peace and blessings to all. It's been a while, so I'd like to update you all about the ongoing persecution of my family. I simply cannot believe that we are still dealing with this madness. Just to recap, shady government agents from the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families began to harass my family just before Rosh Hashanah of this year. When we refused to cooperate with their demand for an unwarranted entry and search of our home and all the ongoing harassment that this invasion would have entailed, this rogue agency threatened to seize our children as property of the state. They conducted this brazen assault on our family during our holiest time of year, the 10 days of penitence and Yom Kippur. When these criminals weren't able to locate us, they began harassing our relatives in other states, sending police to their homes with threats and intimidation. Incredible, Bolshevik-style guilt by association right here in the United States. After 60 days of this extraordinary assault on our family, the DCF had no choice but to close their case against us due to zero evidence, with regards to all but one of our children, at least. Regarding one child, they stubbornly maintained that their baseless allegation of neglect was supposedly supported, but they wrote that they planned no further action against us. Of course, we contested this decision as well and have requested a fair hearing. We are confident that this flawed determination will be overturned, if not by the higher-ups at the DCF, then certainly by a judge if we ever get to court. But oddly, on the same day that Massachusetts' DCF closed their case, a new case mysteriously opened up against us by the CPS of New York. This time, the allegations were somewhat different, but also completely false. And just like that, the harassment and false accusations started all over again, this time by the CPS of a different state. And now government agents began to harass my relatives in New York State all over again. What's most bizarre is that we don't even live in New York and never lived there. And now, to top it all off, the most disturbing event occurred this past Wednesday evening on the fourth night of Hanukkah. Massachusetts police arrived at our house in Westboro, demanding to enter and interrogate us on behalf of the New York CPS. They attempted to interrogate our adult children who were there at the time. We weren't there, as we haven't been residing there for quite a while, which is why the Massachusetts DCF had never been able to locate us. Presumably, this information of our absence had been communicated to the New York CPS, which is why we never received any mail from them since their bizarre manhunt for our family began last month. So how did it happen that they finally sent Massachusetts cops to search for us this past Wednesday? And why did they come in the late afternoon, just as my adult children and local volunteers were busy setting up for our community's grand menorah lighting on the Westboro Rotary? I'll tell you how they knew. I had posted on my Facebook page earlier that day that we were inviting all locals to join us for a menorah lighting in the center of Westboro at 5 p.m. The CPS thugs must be reading and monitoring my Facebook posts, carefully scouring through everything I write for hints as to my whereabouts. They most certainly know my address and its proximity to the center of town. It's just down the block, and must have concluded that if I'm inviting the community to an event in Westboro, that I must be home preparing for it. So they sent their henchmen in so-called law enforcement to harass us from one state to another. This is astounding and deeply disturbing. Number one, it's astounding that the CPS in Massachusetts had no choice but to close their groundless case against us, but then anonymously submit new fake claims against us in a different state, a state we never resided in, only because we have close relatives there, so they conjecture that we must be there. And secondly, it's deeply disturbing that government surveillance of our social media presence is sadly happening now in real time. In fact, rogue government operatives are probably viewing this video right now. Thirdly, the fact that they would dare to interfere with a religious observance and a celebration of Hanukkah in Westboro is unbelievable exploitation. My friends, it's painfully clear that none of this has anything to do with concern for our children. We have already submitted letters from expert physicians that all our children are in excellent health. These doctors notified me that no one, not one single person from the DCF, even bothered calling them back. Parenthetically, we have more letters from other doctors which we have not sent to the DCF, but which we will submit to a judge if it ever gets to that point. One doctor who runs the emergency room in a prominent hospital wrote that our children are among the healthiest and best cared for children he had ever seen. The DCF, DSS, or CPS, or whatever they call themselves, they couldn't care less. This isn't about our children and never was. It's a heinous attack on my right to free speech, on the fact that I dare challenge their unsubstantiated narrative and their fake science. They are retaliating against me because of my public defiance of their obedience rituals and because of my utter rejection of their unholy injection. And because I have assisted tens of thousands of Americans in defending their sacrosanct, essential human liberties, their body sovereignty, and their religious freedom. On a positive note, we are deeply grateful for all our friends who assisted us during this difficult time, both in Massachusetts and abroad. I'd like to mention particular individuals by name, but I'd rather not share too much information to the government agents who are undoubtedly viewing this video. Anyway, we are confident that this Inquisition-like persecution of our family will surely end soon. Thank God our family is safe and intact. We are out of the reach of these vile fascists who seek us harm, and we are out of harm's way. I believe that New York will inevitably have no choice but to close their baseless case against us as well, just as the Massachusetts DCF did, and that the Massachusetts DCF will have no choice but to retract their unjust verdict against us in due time. I pray that we'll be able to share happy updates soon. Thank you and good night.